This video is brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace is an all-in-one platform where creatives can stand out with their online presence. I think it's pretty cool. I cleared my Ravelry queue, not casting on any more summer knits. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Knee Knits. My name is Amy, and here I talk about all things knitting, and this is podcast episode number 42, and I'll be sharing what I've been working on for the past few weeks. In today's episode, we're focusing mostly on wrapping up my summer projects. I am feeling the urge to move into fall, so I have sort of shifted into overdrive to hurry up and finish my summer knits. So I do have one finished object to share, some project updates, and I'll also be sharing a little bit about my experience at Flock Fiber Festival last week. I will be sharing some new yarn acquisitions, so I hope you're ready for a great podcast. Before we dive into my projects, I want to take a moment to thank the sponsor of today's video, Squarespace. Squarespace is a platform where you can build a website from the ground up and stand out with your online presence. I use Squarespace to host the NE-Knits website where I post blog articles with project updates, yarn reviews, and book reviews. I've really enjoyed using Squarespace as someone who doesn't really want to get into the complicated code of building a website from scratch. It was very simple to plug in my logo, my branding colors, and customize my site to look really nice without too much effort on my end. With optimized SEO tools, Squarespace helps you show up more often to people who want to see your content. If you're interested in creating a Squarespace site, head to squarespace.com to start a free trial today. Once you're ready to launch your site, head to squarespace.com/neknits to get 10% off your first website or domain. Thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video, and now we'll get into the podcast. Well, hello. I'm really excited to be sitting down and filming today's episode. We have the first official podcast episode in the craft room / office / just auxiliary room here in the house. I have put together my yarn shelf, which I was super excited to get out of the boxes and able to be accessed, because I just like looking and touching all the yarn that I have. I feel more inspired when it's in front of me and I can feel things and dream about projects. So I'm glad that it kind of works out that I can film a podcast with the yarn shelf in the background. There is a window in front of me, so that works out well. Of course, with anyone moving, I don't know if this room is going to stay exactly as it is right now for the future. We'll probably take a few months to really tweak and iterate how exactly we want everything to be set up. So don't be surprised if the location changes in the future, but for now, I think this is a great spot to film a podcast. I'm coming off of a very fun week of travel. I flew out to Seattle to go to Flock Fiber Festival, which was really cool. It was my first time in Seattle, took the long haul flight from Boston all the way over there, and had a great time. And I'm going to save all the Flock content for the end, but just wanted to give you a heads up that that's where I'm at now. I've been traveling for the past few weekends, and it feels nice to be settled. This was one of the first weekends in a while that I've had just no plans, no traveling, so it's been nice to work on setting up the house and work on some knitting projects. And yeah, so I've been able to finish my Sevilla blouse. This will be the first project that I'm talking about. The Sevilla blouse is a pattern by Petite Knit, and I've been knitting on this for maybe the second half of the summer, and it was a new release from Petite Knit. It's kind of a long sleeve summer sweater. It's a drop shoulder and features a boat neck neckline with rolled edges on the neckline, but 1x1 rib on the sleeve and the hem. So I mentioned I finished it, so let me try to hold it up here in the frame so you can see the whole sweater. I opted for, as usual, a shorter body length, and I also opted for shorter sleeves as well. If these sleeves look short to you, they are short on me. They're definitely more of a bracelet length, which I've never really gone for in a sweater for the winter or the fall. I like full length sleeves, but because this is kind of a summery, breezy sweater, I thought it would benefit from some bracelet length sleeves. So on me, they maybe come up to here, which is kind of nice and kind of different from everything else I have in my wardrobe. It's pretty basic stockinette drop shoulder. The pickup lines for the drop shoulder are right on the top, so it is a very simplistic design. I do want to talk about the yarn first before I get into the construction. So I did use the suggested yarns for this project. These were new to me yarns. The first is Echinacea palette. This is a 100% cotton. This is in the color ink, which is a pretty matte black color. Palette is a chainette yarn. You can see it has a little bit of kind of like a ribbon texture, like it kind of has that flat texture that's not perfectly round. And they're sold in 50-gram balls, and in this 50-gram ball is 160 meters of yarn. It feels like cotton. It feels not as soft as Pima cotton. It doesn't have that like drapey feel, but it also doesn't have that stiff feel of kitchen cotton. It's kind of perfectly in the middle of those two ends of the cotton spectrum. Now I did hold it with the other suggested yarn in the pattern with it, which is Éze Trio 1. Éze Trio 1 is a lace weight summer fiber. It's a blend of 30% cotton, 50% linen, and 20% lyocell. This is also in the color ink, and you can see it's just a very thin thread. This feels pretty much like a 100% linen yarn. If you've knit with that before, this is not going to feel too different from that. So you do hold these two yarns together for the project, and it's knit at sort of a looser gauge. This is a thicker cotton yarn, and I ended up using 5.5 millimeter needles for my project. The suggested needle size is 5 millimeter needles, so about a worsted weight gauge. The suggested gauge is 18 stitches per 4 inches or 10 centimeters. Because it's knit on such large needles, it did knit up pretty quickly for me. I'll get into the construction now. So this is a drop shoulder. You start with the back panel, which I'll show here. If you're noticing this little piece of yarn I have tied here, it's because I cannot tell the front from the back very easily. So I just tied a little piece of yarn in there for reference, and I do plan on putting a little tag at the back neck, so that way there's no more questions. But it's a pretty like symmetrical piece. The back panel is knit just as a regular rectangle. There's no shaping or anything. You just knit a rectangle, and then you pick up along the edges for the front panels. And you can see here the pickup line. So you don't have any fancy like shoulder angling if you've done drop shoulders before. In one sense, it makes it very beginner friendly. I think this was a very simple pattern to follow if you're looking for something to enter the drop shoulder sweater world. This is a great entry piece. If you're someone who has made drop shoulders a million times before and are looking for like a super tailored fit, this is not going to have that. And I think there are pros and cons to that. I personally prefer more tailored fits, but I think with this sort of breezy summer sweater vibe, I kind of don't mind that it has that boxy fit and that loose fit, and it doesn't really need to be super tailored to look cute. Like I think it looks cute with the lack of shaping. So along the front, you pick up and then you do some short row shaping to shape the front neckline. I'm not exactly sure what the short row shaping does. I think it lifts the front just a little bit at each end of the neckline, and then to fill in this big neckline, you do a lot of backwards loop cast on stitches and then continue and pick up along the other back panel, and that makes your whole front neckline and like the front shoulders. From there, you just knit and stockinette flat, and then you join at the underarms. Again, nothing fancy, and then it's just straight stockinette for the rest of the body. So like I said, very basic construction, very simple to follow, and it's on big needles, so it felt like it went pretty quickly to me. Finish the body with 1x1 ribbing just for a few rows, so it's a very shallow ribbed hem, and I did the tubular bind off to finish, and I think it looks really good. As with any summer fiber, it doesn't look as like crispy and tight as it would than if I did this with a wool, but for this cotton linen yarn, I think this looks pretty good. And then you pick up the sleeves, and the sleeves have a very slight taper. You can probably see my decreases here, and they can be knit on 16-inch circulars for the whole length of the sleeve, which was kind of nice because I really like 16-inch circulars rather than magic loop. But you can see it does create a pretty wide sleeve, which is also why I opted to go for the bracelet length with the sleeve, because I didn't want it to be wide. And I tried kind of rolling it up. Petite Knit styles it with the sleeves rolled up, but for me, it's like too wide to tighten up and roll. Maybe if I fold it, but I haven't tried folding it. But I don't really plan on rolling up the sleeves like Petite Knit does, so I'm glad that even though they're wider sleeves, I made them shorter so they won't really like get in the way of life. Similarly, finished with 1x1 rib and some tubular cast off. Now the neckline is finished with more knitting. Going into this pattern, I thought that it was just the raw cast on edge for the front and back neckline, only because it does have the rolled edge. So I just kind of assumed that that was it. And that's not the case. You do go back and you pick up the entire neckline on a circular needle, you knit in stockinette, and then you cast off just a regular cast off. So that's actually what this rolled edge is here. I think it looks way better than if you didn't do that, and if it was just the raw cast on edge. It was really loose, it didn't look too neat, and I was worried maybe halfway through the pattern that it was gonna look a little sloppy, but I'm glad that you do end up picking up. So you can see here the pickup line, and I think it really pulls everything together. I made sure to pick up exactly in the stitches below. So from the front, it's really indistinguishable where the pickup is. You can maybe see where some of those front short rows are that I had talked about right here. I know it's black, it's a little hard to see, but there are some of the short row shaping that goes in front, on the front neckline, like right here. So I'm excited that this is done. I just finished this, it just came off the blocking board, so I haven't really worn it. I haven't even taken like my finished object photos yet by the time I'm filming this, so I'll probably quickly throw this on for some B-roll footage, but I can't really speak to how it wears yet. We'll probably fill you all in on that in a future episode. But I like it a lot. I really like how the fabric feels. It feels like a cotton fabric. I talked a little bit about this in my previous episode, but I'm honestly not really sure the benefit of holding the two yarns together, because feeling the fabric, it feels like this cotton yarn. It feels like the palette. I don't really know if I feel the lace weight linen that's like hidden in there. And I chose these two colors that look pretty similar, and you really can't see the two yarns at all. So I don't really know if it was necessary to hold these two together. Now, if I picked yarns colors that contrasted more so I could get more of a marl, I could totally see that being a really cool look with the lace weight contrasting with the cotton, and it would just give the whole sweater some more dimension. But if you're opting for a singular color sweater, maybe don't do the linen and just make sure you meet gauge with whatever cotton you use in the pattern. No major modifications to the Sevilla blouse. I basically knit it to pattern with the exception of lengths, which if you followed me for a while, you know that I do that. My sleeve length is about 3¼ inches shorter than the suggested sleeve length, and I really cropped the body. I cropped it by about 5 inches from suggested, which I was kind of surprised that it ended up being that much shorter than the suggested body length, but I really wanted it to kind of just be a loose fitting, like wear with my high-waisted shorts or high-waisted jeans. I'm not really able to tuck it in, which is fine because it has that kind of breezy fit. So yeah, I used way less yarn than what was suggested. I bought the suggested yarn amounts, which were 6 balls of the palette, and I still have about 1½ balls left of the palette. And for the trio one, it was suggested to get 3 balls of this, so I got 3 balls, and I just barely used this 3rd ball. This is a 50-gram ball, and I just measured it after finishing the project, and this is now 49 grams, so I used exactly 1 gram of this trio one from my last ball. So I got a lot of extra yarn. I don't really know what I'm gonna do with it. I might just put it in a destash. I do have a lot of yarn that I'm planning on destashing at some point, so if you're interested in that, keep an eye on my Instagram. This is plenty for like a really cute like summer accessory, like a summer bandana, summer neck scarf. If you have other yarn that you could do like stripes, so I'm sure someone else can find good use for this yarn. My finished gauge for this sweater was pretty on par with the gauge of the pattern. I ended up at about 17½ stitches per 4 inches or 10 centimeters. The pattern gauge is 18 stitches per 4 inches, and the positive ease on me fits great. I measured the body circumference, and this has about 3 inches of positive ease on me. The suggested positive ease of the pattern is 3¼ inches, so my body circumference is at 37, gives me 3 inches of positive ease, and I really like the look. It doesn't look too oversized, but it's also not like a negative ease blouse anyway. So in general, I'm pretty pleased with the fit and feel of this sweater. I am calling it kind of a summer sweater, but I don't see why I can't wear this into the fall and maybe even into the winter. It's just a staple black sweater. It's cotton. I feel like we wear cotton all the time. Like all of my commercial sweaters before I started knitting were usually cotton, and I would wear those in like the dead of winter and then wonder why it was cold. But I think this would be a great piece to style in the fall and winter as well. This is my Sevilla blouse. Now that I'm done talking about it, I'm gonna pop it on and wear it for the rest of the episode. The next project I'll be talking about is really close to being finished, and it's the Éze Basket Bag by Alexis Tavel of Two of Wands. And I say almost finished because here it is. It's all finished being created or made. I just haven't added the handles yet. So the Éze Basket Bag is a French-inspired tote, and it's a crochet project. So it's entirely crocheted in spiral rounds. The yarn that I use was the suggested yarn. So I got this as a Lion brand kit, which included the yarn that was sent to me, and then the pattern gets delivered via email digitally. So you kind of save money with a kit because you don't have to purchase the pattern separately. So Lion brand 24/7 cotton is the yarn. This is a 100% mercerized cotton worsted weight yarn. This is a 100-gram ball, and in this 100 grams there are 186 yards or 170 meters. For this pattern, you do hold the yarn double. You crochet it with a 5mm hook, which is what I use for my project. And I use the suggested color, or I use like the sample photo color, which is hay bale, which is this really nice kind of brown straw, like barely olive color. I think it's the perfect color if you're looking for that like straw bag inspired look, which is what I was going for. So this bag is crocheted starting with the base. You start with a chain and then you follow the instructions to go around the chain, and you do strategically placed increases that make this oval shape. It's both charted and written out. I just followed the written out instructions, and then it was all single crochet. And then once you're done increasing for the base, you just keep going around, but you don't increase anymore. And then at some point you do change the stitch pattern into spike stitches, which creates this really beautiful texture. This texture is what drew me to the pattern. I feel like it just looks so professional. It looks woven, like this looks like a woven basket. It's so cute. And yeah, it feels really dense and sturdy. Like I said, you hold that worsted weight yarn double, still on a 5mm hook, so it's very sturdy. Like you can't see any light passing through this bag, which is pretty awesome. And it's pretty sizable too. I didn't gauge swatch or anything, you know, I just started with the suggested hook and went with it, and this is what I ended up with. I'm pretty sure this is close to the pattern dimensions, and I could fit so much stuff in here. I kind of want to use this as like an everyday purse bag. Like I don't really want to use it as a project bag, but I certainly could fit like my wallet, keys, phone, and a knitting project in here if I'm on the go. Now I don't have handles yet. The pattern does include the crocheted handles, but I wanted mine to have a little bit more of an elevated look, so I opted to order handles separately. I was browsing Etsy. I found a vendor that has just brown leather handles. They are nothing fancy. It's just kind of the cut leather with some holes poked into it. They haven't arrived yet, but I just plan on sewing them on, kind of similar to how Petite Knit does her leather handles to the bags. I almost ordered a Petite Knit handle, but the Etsy one was just a little bit cheaper with shipping. So hopefully those turn out to be, you know, good quality and a good color. I'm not really positive if I'm gonna sew them on the outside so the stitching is visible, or if I'm gonna sew them on the inside of the bag and then have it just like come from the inside. But because I didn't crochet the handles, I just did like 2 rounds more of the top border stitch pattern and then finished it off with slip stitches all the way around just to give it a little bit more structure. And that to me, I think it gives it a good proportion of the top band to like the bottom base with the body in the middle. I really like it. I think it turned out really cute. And you can see here, it's sturdy, but it's not a basket. Like this is definitely a bag. It doesn't necessarily stand up on its own. Well, maybe it is. Oh, just kidding. If you wanted something sturdier, maybe you could line it with kind of like a stiff material. I don't know. I don't make bags very often. I don't know how to sew a lining in here if I wanted to. I don't think I need to because it is so dense. And the only thing I would consider is maybe getting like a form for the base so it could sit flat on like a table or on the floor. I'm not really sure. I think I'm just gonna do the handles. I'm gonna start using it and see how I like it. If I think it needs a base, then I'll start investigating what the best solution is. But until then, I think it's pretty cool. I think this was definitely a surprise, successful summer project for me. I was worried I wasn't gonna finish it because once I got into the body, it felt very long. Like I felt like I was working on it a lot and it was only progressing a little bit. And then one week, I was just thinking, summer's almost over. I should probably finish up this bag. So I kind of focused on it for the past week, and crochet is pretty fast, which is very nice. So was able to finish it and can't wait for the handles to arrive. As with the Sevilla Blouse, I did not use nearly as much yarn as what was required for in the pattern. I got 6 balls of these with the kit, and I still have a whole unused ball and a whole like half of another unused ball. So in total I used less than 5 balls. I think I used less than 4.5 balls of the 24/7 cotton. So again, don't know what I'll do with this. Hey, maybe I could take the black palette yarn and something with this, and that could be cute. Maybe another like hat, bag. A crochet bucket hat would be cute. I'll look into that. So this is my Éze Basket Bag. Again, I'll show you guys what it looks like when I finish it with the handles and once I start using it. I'm not really sure how much it's gonna stretch once I start filling it with some weight. So I haven't really tested that out yet. So not done with this on the podcast, but if you are interested in getting your own Éze basket kit, you can check out a link in the description. I do have an affiliate link with Lion Brands, so you can shop all their kits. I get some of the proceeds if you do shop, so thank you in advance if you choose to use the link. I just have one more project to share with you all before I get into flock, yarn, and all that stuff. And this is my Cumulus Tee O-Neck. This is a pattern by Petite Knit. It is a fingering weight raglan. It's knit top down, and I'm using the recommended yarn for mine, which is Knitting for Olive Pure Silk. If you're familiar with Petite Knit's Cumulus Tee, this is a sister pattern that instead of featuring a V-neck, it features a rounded O-neck, a crew neck, a shallow scoop neck. I think there are many descriptive words that you could use, but you can see the shape here. It has all of the same gauge, it has the same I-cord finishings, and I am using the suggested yarn, Knitting for Olive Pure Silk. This is the color Putty, which is an off-white. I think it leans slightly gray. So my progress on the Cumulus Tee is coming along. This project does take a really long time to knit. I am knitting it on the suggested needle size, which is 3 millimeter needles. So very small gauge. It is fingering weight, you can see here. And I was able to finish the sleeve, the first sleeve. So the Cumulus Tee, I really like how it has this longer short sleeve. Petite Knit's sample, I think, is pretty long. It goes pretty close to her elbow. I made mine a little bit shorter. I wanted it to not fold at my elbow, so mine is about like 1.5 inches shorter than where my elbow bends. And so this is the length of the sleeve here. There are some decreases, and it's finished with the I-cord edging. I am in the middle of working the second sleeve. They go by pretty quickly. I feel like the intervals of the decreases on the sleeves makes me motivated to keep working on it, so I can just get to the next decrease, and then before you know it, you're ready to bind off the sleeve. I do not do the decreases in the I-cord bind off that Petite Knit writes in the pattern because I don't really like how it makes the sort of bubble shape at the end of the sleeve, and I'd rather just have this be sort of like a straight sleeve. You can see my I-cord, it kind of goes in a little bit anyway, and I feel like this is the maximum amount of sort of bubbling I want from the sleeve edge, so I'm glad I didn't do the decreases because any more I feel like would be too dramatic for my preferred style. I am knitting size small for myself, which is the suggested size based off of my measurements, and it has, I think, 3 inches of positive ease on me. I have been trying it on, and I do really like the fit so far. It just seems like a very easygoing, not super oversized, but not slim fitting as well t-shirt style. That might be all I can share about the Cumulus Tee. I feel like every time I talk about this project, there's not too much to talk about. So it's a pretty straightforward raglan t-shirt. I do like the shaping of the neck on this one a little bit more than the shaping of the neck on the V-neck. I don't know if the V-neck has any shaping to sort of raise the back, but this one does, which I like because it just will fit a little bit better. So there's my Cumulus Tee. I really don't know when I'm going to finish this one. It is coming along quite slowly, but like I've been saying, summer's wrapping up. My mind is in fall mode, so I do want to hurry up and finish this one. Maybe this will become my focus project for this upcoming week, and maybe I can just power through more of the body until it's long enough for me to wear. Okay, now we're going to get into future plans, yarn acquisitions, and all that stuff. I do have a good amount of yarn to share that's not from flock, so I'm going to talk about that first, my plans for that yarn, and then we'll move into the flock section. So I've been saying I'm ready for fall. I love fall and winter knits. I'm a wool girl. I'm a mohair girl. I just love cozy sweaters. And I have been knitting some cozy sweaters throughout the summer, but there's just something very exciting about a blank slate of a new season and just putting everything on my needles. In fact, I even went into my Ravelry queue, which has, for me, a pretty strategic list of what I plan on knitting, and I cleared it. I cleared my Ravelry queue because I just wanted to like revamp all of the patterns that I've been wanting to make. Sometimes I have pattern plans that they just get pushed from season to season, and maybe it's a year or two down the road and I still haven't knit it and I'm just ready to move on to something else. I would still have the yarn, but I just want to open up my mind a bit to see what else I could make with the yarn. So I have a lot of summer plans that I just didn't get to. I think that happens every season, and they're not necessarily plans that I'm going to ignore for next summer, but I'm probably just not going to talk about them until next summer. So unfortunately, the things that made the chopping block for this season were the white shell tank. I never ended up casting that on, the crochet tank, and at this point I don't really want to cast it on. So I'll probably prioritize it for late spring next year. Maybe I can even finish it before next summer so I can actually wear it for the summer. But I'm just not in the mood to cast on any new summer knits. Similarly, the Sunday tee by Petite Knit, I have some Fil Colonna Merci, and this is half cotton, half superwash merino. So in my mind, it's kind of a summer knit, and I just haven't cast that on yet, and I don't want to cast it on until, I don't know, I just want to cast on some new project ideas. So that's where my mind is at. I don't know if people can relate, but I'm just ready for a blank slate new season. I do really like filming next to my yarn shelf because now I can just grab stuff instead of like grabbing all of this before filming and then like running it over to another room. That was a lot of work. So I do have a yarn acquisition to share from a trip I took to New York. What was I in New York for? A wedding. We were in New York for a wedding, upstate New York. And I went to Saugerties, New York, which if you're familiar with the Rhinebeck event that happens every year, Saugerties is one of the major towns where a lot of the events are that weekend. We were nearby and I wanted to go to the Perfect Blend yarn and tea shop because I've heard lots about it. It seemed really cute. So I went by and I ended up picking up some Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair. And this is in the color Petroleum Green. And the reason I picked it up was to match this yarn that I have. So this is Sewrella's Cashmere Sock. This was gifted to me from their library collection. This is the color Evie, and it was based off of the book First Lie Wins, and you can kind of see how the color translates onto the book cover. This is just such a gorgeous kind of deep green teal color, definitely one of my colors, and the cashmere sock base is one of my favorites from them. It's a fingering weight 80-10-10 superwash wool or superwash merino cashmere nylon. So in the 100 gram skein, there are 435 yards. And because it's fingering weight, I knew I would want to match it with a mohair, and I thought that this color was the perfect match. I was browsing sweater patterns I could make with this. With a fingering weight wool and a silk mohair, I feel like there's infinite amounts of projects that you could make. I wanted something basic, I wanted something a raglan, and I kind of wanted something with a mock neck. So based on that criteria, I landed on the Paloma sweater by Éze Basket Bag. And I just really like that sweater. Again, there's nothing fancy about the design. It's a raglan. It has, I think, more of like a fuller, taller neckline. I do plan on modifying the neckline to be shorter, so it's more of a mock neck instead of like a full length. Like, is that a turtleneck? Or does the turtleneck have to fold? I'm not sure, but I would make the neckline shorter than what it is in the pattern. I love the raglan shaping on it. I love how the twisted rib details from the neckline flow into the sleeve. It kind of has that boxy fit, but I wouldn't make mine too oversized. I think I would knit the smallest size in the pattern, and that would give me about 8 inches of positive ease. So I think that'll be a really fun sort of palette cleanser project to cast on. You guys know I love stockinette raglans, and that just brings me a lot of joy with knitting. So I think this yarn combo will be a really fun project to get me into fall knitting. Some more yarn I'm excited to share. I got from Sewrella from their garden collection pre-order. I really liked that collection. It had so many bright colors, and I feel like lately I've been realizing that I really like bright colors, like not necessarily neons, but they're just very saturated and fun. So I feel like this is a great lineup of those bright summer colors. And I did order some of this yarn with summer projects in mind. So a few of these are gonna go into stash probably until next year. So this first yarn is Classic Sock. It's a fingering weight 100% superwash merino in the color Forget Me Not, which I feel like is just a really nice, bright mid-tone blue. It's not a pale sky blue, but it's also not a darker blue. And I got 2 skeins, which is enough for a tank top, maybe a t-shirt. I was looking at Andrea Gaughan's Iris top that recently came out this summer. I really like how that pattern looks. It looks like there was a lot of really smart and creative shaping that just seems like it would make a really well-fitting garment, and I think in this color would be really fun. But like I said, I'm not casting on any more summer knits, so that project plan will have to wait. Similarly with this yarn, this is the Silk Decay yarn, so it's 50% superwash merino, 50% silk, in the color Lavender, which is this really fun deep purple, but with the silk it's like shiny and has a lightness to it as well. And I've wanted to cast on the Pillars of Simplicity by Claire Jackson. I feel like in this purple color it would just look super cute. Raglan t-shirt, cropped fit, really long 2x2 ribbing, which I think is a really cool design choice. That's my project plan for this yarn next year. And then lastly from that pre-order, I got a sweater quantity of this fingering weight yarn. This is also Classic Sock, so 100% superwash merino in the color Echinacea. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It's based off of a flower name, and it's this really fun kind of bubblegum pink. I've been wanting a bubblegum pink sweater, and I think this is going to be a great color to knit with. I do plan on getting some sort of mohair or some sort of Surrey alpaca lace weight yarn to pair with this, so it wouldn't be a fingering weight sweater, likely to be a DK weight sweater. I think a fuzzy bubblegum pink sweater is just something I need in my wardrobe. So I don't have pattern ideas yet, but this yarn color is really inspiring me for maybe a winter knit, but I could start it in the fall and hope to finish it before the winter. Okay, now we'll move into talking all about Flock Fiber Festival. Flock was really cool. I had a great time going. It definitely exceeded my expectations. It was just it really filled my heart. I have never met so many people at one event that were just so excited about knitting and yarn, and I met so many people who watch my channel. So if that was you and you said hi to me, thank you. That was really cool to meet everyone in person. There's just such a disconnect from doing stuff on the internet and like posting stuff on the internet. It's very one way. So to have an event where it could be a two-way conversation and just like sharing all those memories together was just really awesome. And I got to see so many vendors in person that I've never seen before. I got to meet lots of people that I've been fangirling myself. That was cool, like Sorry Nordland, hello. I got to meet Nitty Natty, I got to meet Ashley from Sewrella, and so many more people. So that was just a really cool event. My husband was able to go and he really enjoyed it too. He was really great in holding my bag for the whole day on Saturday. So I thought it was a very well-run event. I really liked the space that it was held at. The Seattle Convention Center Summit was a beautiful venue. I don't know how new it is, but it seems very new and modern. Lots of space. I feel like all of the booths had plenty of like elbow room, and I loved how they had so many tables and chairs to just sit at. If you wanted to like start a little knitting circle in the middle of the day, you totally could. There was also a huge seating area outside of the marketplace hall, these huge stairs that had little pads that you could sit on, and that was super cool. I had a lot of great conversations there on the stairs, and the classrooms for the classes were separate, and I just really liked the venue and the layout and the setup. Saturday was definitely busy, but I never felt like crowded. Like it was, sometimes I had to wait a few minutes to go into a booth just because there were too many people looking at the same time, but never had to wait longer than a few minutes. Really excited that I got to go. I don't know if going to Flock will be like a regular occurrence for me. I live close to Boston, and flying to Seattle every year, probably not the most realistic plan for me, but I would love to go back to more Flock Fiber festivals in the future. And if you are able to go yourself, I definitely would recommend it. Now, I have posted by now a Flock Fiber Festival dedicated video. It was kind of a mix of a half vlog section, or very small vlog section, combined with sort of a haul section, and I was super happy to sort of co-host that with my friend Leslie. We've been friends since college, and she also is a knitter, and I just thought it'd be fun to have more of like a two-person dialogue for that video, which was not like my standard podcasting style. So I am going to repeat all of the stuff that I got at Flock. If for some reason that is not of interest to you because you already saw it in the previous video, feel free to skip this section. But if you want to see my haul once again with just me talking about it, I might include some extra things that I didn't say in that video, not because I left them out on purpose, but maybe I just didn't have time to say them in that pretty long video. So I think for today, I'm just gonna stick to the yarn and talk about project plans. If you're curious about like notions and accessories, then check out the Flock video just for the sake of time. And they're in no particular order. I think I'm just gonna literally look at my shelf and pick out what I remember is new. Yeah, I've been talking about Sewrella. We'll just talk about Sewrella one more time. So I was able to do the petite palette experience with Brooke at the Sewrella booth, which was really cool. They had done it last year at Flock, and then they did sort of a virtual pre-order format of it. I didn't order anything from the pre-order because I knew I was going to Flock and kind of wanted to do it in person. So this is the palette that Brooke created, and the inspiration for my palette was my living room, and I wanted to make an Astrid pillow for our living room that has kind of like green and terracotta and kind of neutral color scheme. So I had her start with this sagey green here, and then I told her that I wanted a terracotta sort of red-orange accent, and then she kind of built out the palette from there. I also said I wanted a lot of like sandy neutrals, and I just really like how it looks. I also really like it because this is not a palette that I myself would wear. I'm not really into like the warmer earthy tones, but I think for the Astrid pillow, it's gonna look really nice. It's gonna look really cohesive, and I'll probably just do a white or maybe an off-white main color for the Astrid pillow. I now get the hype of Explore Knits and Fibers. I haven't purchased anything from Explore Knits before. They always sell out so quickly in their pre-orders, and it's usually before I can get to them, and I knew I wanted to shop them in person. Their booth was beautiful, just so many walls of gorgeous colors, and they also had a cool preview of their next collection coming out, so I have some stuff scoped out for that. But that stuff wasn't for sale at Flock, it was just on like display so you could see it. So I ended up getting these two skeins from Explore Knits. These are both in the Rockies DK base. It's a 100% superwash merino, and I've heard that the Rockies DK base is a little bit thinner than most DK weight yarns. So this has 274 yards per 100 gram skein. Now this color was the one that I picked out first. This I thought was a very Amy color. It's like dark, moody, kind of purpley blue with some pops of teal. This is called Rensifjara Beach, I believe from the Iceland collection. And I was thinking, I remember in my project plans for Flock, I wanted to do like a reversible beanie, the Mullet beanie from Sari Nordland's book. So I had on my list to get 2 coordinating skeins of DK weight yarn. So when I saw this yarn also on the shelf, I knew that was going to be the perfect coordinating option to this skein. It kind of is like the reverse. They have the same color notes, like the blues and the greens, but this one is obviously like a white base or like an off-white sort of icy blue base. And this is called Lavendula. And I think knitting these together will be really fun. Now the Mullet beanie, it's not knit like the Musselburgh because you don't knit from point to point. You actually knit from the middle with a provisional cast on and then go to one crown and then you pick up at the provisional cast on and then go to the other crown. But the construction or like the final shape is the same, where you have the long enclosed tube that you can fold inside each other to have the 2 layers. So for the Mullet beanie, if you are doing the 2-tone hat, basically one side of the hat is all one color and then the other side of the hat just has one color as the hat, and then the second color is the brim. So it's not like a perfectly reversible, like if I had the white base and then the dark brim, it doesn't flip. So it has the dark base and the white brim, it would flip so it would be all dark for the other side, which I'm sure could be an easy mod if I wanted it to be perfectly reversible like that. But I think I'm leaning more towards having, which one? I think I kind of want to have the dark be like all one side, and then on the other side would be the white base with the dark brim. I think, I don't know, I'll have to sit on it, but that's my idea for these 2 skeins from Explore Knits and Fibers. At the Geektastic Fibers booth, I got a self-striping sock yarn skein. I've been wanting to try self-striping sock yarn for a while, so really glad I got to browse the booth in person. They had a lot of cool colors, and I ended up picking this one here. This is called Falling in Love Craftshian, and it's on their superhero sock base. So it's a 4-ply sock base, 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, my preferred sock base. And I'm just really excited to start knitting a vanilla sock and having it be striped. So cool. Lots of fun, moody colors. We got some blue, some maroon, some green. Okay, this next yarn wasn't purchased at Flock Fiber Festival, but I actually got it at La Mercerie on Bainbridge Island the day before Flock Fiber Festival. Beautiful store. Definitely recommend the visit. They were so nice and it was just really cool to browse. I got a sweater quantity of Rerum Natura Ulysse, which is a sport weight woolen spun yarn. This is 100% wool, and this is the color Merlot. I got it for Sari Nordland's Vivian pullover. I similarly had talked about this in my Flock shopping project plans. I was going back and forth between what color to get. They have so many shades of this color, of this yarn, and I was leaning more towards the blues. I thought, oh, maybe I should do like a neutral, like off-white because of all the texture on the sweater, but my friend Leslie convinced me to get the Merlot, which I am really excited to knit into a textured cabled sweater. I think it's just gonna be super cozy autumn vibes, and I'm really excited to try this yarn. I've been wanting to try Rerum Natura for a very long time, and I can order online at any point, but there's something special about being able to go to a store and pick it out in person. It's just really satisfying. So looking forward to the Vivian. I honestly might cast that on next. I do have to gauge swatch, but I definitely want to get that started sooner rather than later. I'm also coming away from the Sari Nordland cables class where she specifically taught us how to do the honeycomb stitch on that sweater pattern without a cable needle. And now I'm like, oof, game changer. And I did also learn how to do other cables without a cable needle in a way that actually works for me. So I just am really eager to get cabling on this sweater. All right, I feel like we're getting long with the video. Still on Bainbridge Island, I went to the Lamb & Kid as well. Also a really cool yarn store. They have a lot of in-house hand-dyed yarns, beautiful bases. I need to get some of that 100% cashmere that they sell, but I wasn't quite ready to buy it at the store then. But I did pick up some Spin Cycle, and I will share that they did gift me a gift card when I got to the store, which I was not expecting at all. So thank you so much for that gift card, but I do want to disclose that part of the yarn I'm sharing from the store was gifted. Like the gift card covered some of the purchase and the rest I paid myself. I got this spin cycle. This is the color Nostalgia. And I got this because of the sample of the Velvet Mirror Cowl by Andrea Mowry that they had on display. I just really liked it, and I feel like it'd be a fun little project for me. I don't do color work very often, and I think a cowl might be an attainable color work project for me where it doesn't seem too overwhelming to start. And if I have a really cool color like this to knit with, it would be really fun. Also at the Lamb & Kid, I got this really cool base. Remember I was talking about how I love bright colors now? Well, this bright green I just had to get, and it looks a little bit more accurate when I hold it back here. And this is in their Trio DK base. This is a 70% merino, 20% cashmere, and 10% nylon blend. So it definitely has that really scrumptious cashmere feel. And I got 2 skeins of this, which should be good for a beanie. And I was scrolling through beanie patterns, and one that really caught my eye was the Urban Beanie by Tori Yu. It has a really unique crown shape, and I feel like with this really bright green color, it would just be a great combo project. I could not leave Flock without getting these 2 skeins. They are so beautiful. Oh, these are from Ocean Fibers. This sort of bright pastel, it's not really bright, this sort of muted pastel rainbow color, I just could not get out of my head. It's just so fun. Ocean Fibers, they had all these really cool kind of holographic inspired, I think a lot of their colors are inspired by pearls and shells, and I just really liked this color called Mermazing. So I got the fingering weight sock yarn. This is 75% merino, 25% nylon. It's a 4-ply, 463 yards per 100 grams. And then I got the matching mohair. This is a lace weight silk mohair in the same exact color, Mermazing. And this is a 64% kid silk mohair, 64% kid mohair, and 36% silk. And together, I also kind of want to make a beanie. I know, I feel like all of my projects that I took away from Flock were beanies just because it was more attainable to get less amount of skeins from each shop, as you can imagine. And I just like beanies. I wear beanies all the time in the winter. It's cold here in Boston, so I'll definitely get my use out of a really fun rainbow pastel beanie. For this one, I'm thinking of Sari Nordland's Archer beanie. It has a 2x2 ribbed pattern, but it has a cool sort of crown pattern that I think makes a really cool shape. It has the very wide double folded brim, and I think that the yarn here combined with the ribbing in that hat will be a good combo. Like, it's still wide enough ribbing where it'll show off the yarn color, but it's still texture that makes a cool shaped hat. Okay, I think that was all the yarn. I'm looking and I don't see anything else I got. Oh, wait, these. Okay, one more thing of yarn. I got some mini skeins. So one project plan that I did not end up shopping for at Flock Fiber Festival was a full DIY advent calendar. I had discussed the idea, and when I was at Flock, there were a lot of mini skeins, but the idea of making a cohesive color palette with 24 minis from all different shops was just something that I wasn't ready to tackle. Maybe I should have done more homework before and I could have done it, but it just ended up not happening, which is totally fine. I ended up just getting these mini skeins from Coats & Co., which had a really beautiful booth of just so many really nice solids. Their Cottage sock base, which is a 75-25 sock yarn. I really like these colors, and I have a lot of mini skeins that I already have that I think I could DIY in Advent still without having bought a whole new set of 24 at Flock. So I like these colors. I think I'm just gonna find mini skeins in my stash that sort of coordinate with these. And if I still have gaps, I could easily shop for a few more online. And I think it's a better use of what I already have rather than getting a bunch new. So excited to sort of put that together at some point, or at least lay out my options and then see if it's feasible and then put it together. So I haven't ditched the DIY advent calendar idea yet, but I just didn't shop for it completely at Flock. That's all the yarn. I do have one more sort of category of stuff to share, which is a new category for me, and it's spinning. I don't spin. I don't know how to spin, but I want to learn. I've been intrigued. I watch a lot of YouTubers, as you all probably do, that spin, and it just seems really fun. So I got a drop spindle when I was at La Mercerie. Now, I didn't really research this before I went to the store. They just had these, so I bought one. So this is a Kromsky drop spindle. That's all I know about it. I'm sure there's a lot more technical terms about maybe the shape. But this is what it looks like. I got this nice purple color because I love purple, and it came with a whole instruction booklet, and I am excited to try this out for the first time. I can't tell if I'm gonna like become a spinner, but I wanted to try it at least know that I gave it a shot before deciding if I'll continue or not continue. And of course, a drop spindle is a pretty low barrier to entry. This was like $35, I think, and if you got a non-colored one, it was a little bit less. So definitely cheaper than investing in a whole spinning wheel at the get-go. Now, of course, I got the drop spindle, so I had to get some fiber at Flock. There were so many gorgeous like fiber braids on display at so many different stores, and I picked up 2 of them. So this here I got from Blarney Yarn. This is 100% blue-faced Leicester in the color Hermione. This is 2 ounces, and the woman at the booth said that blue-faced Leicester is a good starter fiber because it has a long staple length and it's pretty grippy. So I might use this as my first spin, completely knowing that my first spin, maybe my first 5 or 10 spins won't probably be good, but I think it's more motivating to do it with like a fun colored fiber rather than a plain one. Would it be more responsible to get a cheaper undyed fiber to try with for the very first time? Yes. But this is 2 ounces. I think it was $12, so I feel like that's fine for me to start with, and we'll see how it goes. They had a lot of really cool colors, so I can always get more if it goes pretty well. And then I got this from Little Fiber Co. This is the color Pavlova. It's so pretty, so much blue and sort of light lilac maybe? Yeah, there's some purple in there. And this is a 100% Corriedale. Again, don't know too much about the different fibers that are out there. I'm sure if you're watching, you might be like saying things to me through the screen like, oh yeah, that's a good one, or oh no, don't start with that one. But I think 100% Corriedale might also be a good beginner fiber. This is 4 ounces, so this was more expensive than the 2 ounces. So I might save this for later once I get the hang of it. And I could not get it because it was so pretty. There was a lot of fiber at Flock that was so pretty, and I wish I knew more about spinning to get more of it, but we got to start somewhere. So that's everything I purchased at Flock. I hope I didn't forget anything, but if I did, you can check out the Flock video that I posted already. I did also want to share that I got my Sari Nordland book signed. What a cool experience it was to meet Sari Nordland and take a class with her. She was a really good teacher, and it was really cool to take a picture with her, and I just got so inspired to knit more of her patterns after meeting her. And in her cables class, she was showing off so many of her designs that use cables, and she was explaining different concepts about them. So it was a great time at Flock. I had a great time in Seattle and then the Pacific Northwest. I had a great time just hanging out with so many other crafters, and it's getting me excited for other yarny events. I have not been to Rhinebeck yet just because I feel like every year in the fall I'm traveling the same weekend of Rhinebeck, but I'm not that far from it in Boston, so I am planning on going this year. So that should be fun. I'm excited to meet more of you all there. Thanks for listening to the podcast. I know it was a longer one, but hopefully you enjoyed it, and looking forward to seeing you all in the next video. Bye.